And remembrance ceremonies continue tonight for those who lost their lives in the New York City gun attack. Could the families of the victims pursue legal action? And could someone face criminal charges in the deadly mass shooting? Our Will Silverstein brought those questions to a former prosecutor and a firearms expert and has more on what they said about the case.
Investigators, victims' families, and the public still searching for answers in the aftermath of Monday's shooting. We take a closer look at what may be next in the investigation and the courtroom.
Did they have any idea that the shooter had these motives, had this intent?
That is what former prosecutor John Day says NYPD investigators are trying to track down. Day pointing out that the police will be inquiring about the living situation of the deceased suspect, Shane Tamura, and his parents, who are Las Vegas residents that he is known to have spent a significant amount of time with, as well as any other relationships that may be uncovered. But Day says for more criminal charges to come, these specifics will likely have to be provable in a court of law.
Unless they were aware and actively participated in transferring a gun, ammunition, things like that, unless there was a conspiracy, it's a little bit unlikely that they'd be facing criminal charges.
The question about the gun transfer lies with his former supervisor at the Horseshoe. That individual is believed to be Rick Ackley. Through a lawyer, Ackley says the gun was legally transferred. Firearms expert Ken Ortega explains that the lower receiver will be the focal point of an investigation into the legality of the sale.
So the lower receiver would basically be this lower part of the firearm that is serialized. It's how it has all the trigger assembly and other components in it to operate the gun. The upper receiver part, which is this part up here, there's no registration or anything that happens or has to happen with some of these other components.
Another question Ortega adds is whether the venue of sale was following the law and not an under-the-table deal between two mutuals.
And the proper way to transfer, these lower receivers or a firearm is through a federal firearms licensed dealer. So even private party transfers, they all have to go through a federal firearms licensed dealer now.
So what is the recourse for victims and their families? Day leaves open the possibility of civil litigation.
The civil standards are lower than criminal standards. So, for example, if the families of the victims wanted to file suit against a person who provided a gun when they knew or should have known that person was likely to use it or misuse that gun, that's a different story.
Another potential defendant may be the building or tenants inside the building, like the NFL in Blackstone. But Day says that case may be hard to bring, as it may hinge on whether it was foreseeable for a gunman to enter the premises while wandering through the busy streets of New York openly carrying an AR. Still, several questions and a difficult future for those victim families as NYPD investigators continue their investigation. Reporting in studio, Will Silverstein, News 3.